Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into my latest video. As I promised from the last one, I'm diving through all my tiers for all the position groups heading into the upcoming fantasy football drafts. And today I'm going to be giving out my running back tiers. Before I dive into this video, I just want to let you guys know some of these players' ADPs might be all over the place despite what group I put them in, because this is just how I view these running backs heading into these drafts. And I got about 50 or so names I'm going to go over. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into this video and go through these groups of these tiers of running backs and how I view them heading into this upcoming season. Obviously, let's just start with the guys that I am safe. I feel like these group of players, these running backs, I feel safe drafting them for my RB1 slot. And I think most people would agree. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler. I even put the rookie Bijan Robinson because, in my personal opinion, if you're going to pick a running back inside the top 10, you're going to give him the ball a lot, and they are going to utilize him as a receiver. So in those PPR leagues, he's going to give you tremendous value. And then I think Tony Pollard, he's going to take that next step. He averages over 5 yards a carry and 5 yards a reception, so he's productive. And now we'll see if Zeke does stay out of the picture and no other veteran running back comes in over these next few weeks, Pollard's going to dominate the touches. Now, I will say this. Henry, I didn't know where I was going to put him inside my tiers, because not that I'm necessarily out on Henry. I trust him as an RB1 because he's going to get the volume. Volume is king in fantasy. But I am worried about that Titans offensive line. But listen, if I can maybe get him in the second, maybe in the back end of the second, maybe a top of the third, if people are kind of iffy on him, I definitely want to take him as my RB1, especially if I could get maybe a wide receiver in that first round. Now, before I move into this next tier, just to kind of give you guys an idea where these guys have been over the last 3 years in terms of this is PPR points per game. And this is since 2020, according to the Pro Football Reference. Christian McCaffrey has the highest average of points per game for the running backs. Nick Chubb has the 10th highest average. Austin Eckler has the 3rd highest average. Saquon Barkley sitting at the 17th highest average. But I will say this. Ever since he signed that new contract to play this year, that first day in practice, they were utilizing him more as a receiver. So I think you're going to see him a lot in that Giants passing attack this year. And then obviously Derrick Henry, he's been putting up points the last 3 years. He has the 2nd highest average since 2020. So yeah, those guys are the safest ones. You probably hear tons of people hammer home about these guys. I don't want to reiterate everything that you've heard about the top fantasy running backs heading into the season. Now, this next tier, these are running backs that I believe can be RB1s, but you need to monitor their situation. So Jonathan Taylor, he technically still has this ankle issue. I don't really understand it because he had surgery back in January. And obviously he has this contract dispute with the Colts right now. He's requested the trade, but the fact is he's going to play this year because he's on the final the final year of his rookie contract. And if he doesn't play a certain amount of games, then his contract's going to toll over till next year, and he won't be able to get the franchise tag or his next contract with the team until like 2 years from now. Right, so he would have to play out that next year. So he does have to play. So with that being said, even if he plays for the Colts, he's got to understand that he's going to have to put his best product on the field for either the Colts or another team to give him money next year. And then let's just say he does get traded. The team's going to pay for him because they're going to trade for him. They're going to give him that contract extension. So if they're going to give him that extension, then that means they're going to have to, he's going to have to live up to that money. So he's going to have to play at his peak performance this year. And I still think Jonathan Taylor is that type of running back. And then obviously you have to monitor Josh Jacobs' situation. His situation is interesting because it has been reported he might be willing to take this out into the season. So that's something you need to watch. As far as Breece Hall, it's just about his return from the injury. I know I saw a report that where the Jets don't want to rush him back. I saw that maybe the earliest they may put him out on the field is like week 4, week 5. Obviously, there's a lot of time between now and the season, and it does sound like he's at least running as fast as he was last year. But I think with him being a young running back, and they don't want to obviously hurt his long-term health, but they also have a Super Bowl aspiration with New York, so they're thinking about the back end of the season. So that's why you hear them in the talks for these veteran running backs that can at least hold his place until Hall is fully healthy and he can hit the ground running for that Jets offense. Now, Alvin Kamara, we know his situation, right? He's suspended for 3 games. But then there was a report they brought in Kareem Hunt today. The expectation they were going to sign him. I'm going to get into that later. But then they got Jamal Williams. They got that rookie Kendre Miller. So if those 3 guys are like performing very well, are they going to just immediately place a Kamara right away? But all the reports coming out of camp is Kamara looks like himself from the last few years. But you still got to monitor that situation because they could still end up signing Kareem Hunt, and then that just muddies that whole backfield in New Orleans. So you just got to monitor this situation. But with him being like a great receiving back and all these reports saying that he's running at the top speed that he has throughout his career, then yeah, he's definitely, I think, in line to be an RB1. Then taking a look at those stats since 2020, Jonathan Taylor has the 5th highest average for points per game. Josh Jacob has the 8th highest average. Breece Hall, even though he played a limited amount of games as a rookie, has the 9th highest average points per game for running backs. And then Alvin Kamara sitting at the 4th most points per game. Moving into the next tier of running backs, these are running backs that I view that offer a high floor if you can get them as your RB2. What I mean by that is I think these are guys that you're going to be able to trust to give you those like 10 to 15 points every week. But I do believe that some of these guys on this list can give you RB1 weeks throughout the season. You got Aaron Jones, who actually has the 10th highest average since 2020 points per game. Najee Harris, who has the 12th highest average points per game. We saw what Dameon Pierce did last year. My biggest worry with Pierce is him being more effective as a receiving back. But it sounds like he lost some weight and he's been working on his receiving ability. So that is somebody I definitely would love as my RB2. Travis Etienne Jr., Joe Mixon is back with the Bengals. He's going to dominate the touches out of the backfield. He has the 7th highest average points per game. And honestly, with this potential where I think Burrow's going to play week 1 in my opinion, but if Burrow does have to miss maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks because of this calf strain, then they're going to lean into the rushing attack, and that means Mixon can give you really great value as an RB2 out of the gates. And then we got David Montgomery. He's got the 16th most points per game average since 2020. And what I love about Montgomery too as an RB2 this entering the year is that Lions passing attack doesn't really have like a legit guy. I think they're going to really lean into Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs at the beginning of the season, why the passing attack, the receivers and the tight ends get more acclimated because it's a very young group there in Detroit, and I think they're going to lean on the guys that they put money into. They spent the 1st round pick on Gibbs, but they gave Montgomery a pretty decent running back contract. So if they're going to give him money, they're going to give him the ball. And then Ramondre Stevenson right now, I think he's a very high-end RB2, but there is a chance that they could sign a veteran running back like Ezekiel Elliott or maybe like a Dalvin Cook. Obviously, if that happens, that kind of decreases him to like a low-end RB2. Then you can maybe drops his ADP, but I still think he offers a high floor as an RB2 because he is very familiar with that New England offense. Alexander Mattison, we saw Dalvin Cook head out the door, so this is his backfield. I just think with Mattison, even though he's going to dominate the amount of touches, I just think he's more of a very solid RB2. I don't think he's just going to, be what Dalvin Cook was, because Dalvin's a special talent. And I don't think he's just going to be like an RB1 just because Dalvin's out of the picture. And I think we're going to see this Vikings offense actually lean more into the pass because they got Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, obviously Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Josh Oliver they brought in, who's a decent receiving tight end. So I think we're going to see more of a passing attack out of the Vikings offense. But with that being said, volume's king. I think Madison's going to get a lot of touches. Kenneth Walker, we saw what he did as a rookie last year. He has the 20th most points per game since 2020. Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs running back. Obviously, you do need to keep an eye on his injuries, but the report came out yesterday that they expect him to be ready by the Lions opener. And then James Conner, he's got the 13th highest average points per game since 2020. And then obviously with Kyler Murray, you're going to probably sit out the first month to 2 months to start the year. They're probably going to really lean into that rushing attack there in Arizona. And James Conner is about as steady as a fantasy running back as you can get. He'll get the volume of the touches. So I think offers a high floor as an RB2 entering the year. Now, moving into the next tier of players, these are running backs I think that would be great RB2s because I think they offer you a high ceiling. We got Javonte Williams. All reports are coming out that he is he's on a trajectory to be starting by week 1, which is a surprise to me, especially considering the injury he had last year. We know that Sean Payton's going to want to really lean into that rushing attack. They invested a lot of money into that offensive line, so you're talking about a player that could end up working himself into RB1 category by the end of the season. We all know about Jahmyr Gibbs and his receiving ability. I talked about David Montgomery and how I think they're going to use him, Montgomery and Gibbs. And keep in mind, Dan Campbell comes from New Orleans, right? And the Saints. Remember what the Saints had a few years back with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara? So what you're going to get in this Lions offense is David Montgomery is going to fill that Mark Ingram role, and then Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be that Alvin Kamara type of role, and they're going to utilize him in the slot. They're going to probably play both of them on the field at the same time throughout games. And if Gibbs does live up to his hype, all of a sudden you got a very strong RB2 that can eventually maybe be an RB1 as a rookie by the end of the season. Zach Charbonnet is a 3-down back, a rookie running back for Seattle. We know Seattle and Pete Carroll loves to lean into their running backs. I said this in my running backs I'm trying to draft late video, which if you haven't checked, go back and watch that. I do think though that I think there's going to be a scenario where Charbonnet starts to out-touch Walker in the back half of the season. So he's definitely a guy I got my eyes on in these drafts. Now, J.K. Dobbins, his situation's kind of iffy right now. He's on the PUP list. We don't know if he's going to be ready by the beginning of the season, but he's so effective on the field where if you can get him on your bench and then eventually he does get back to being healthy and he does proclaim himself as that RB1 in the Baltimore Ravens offense, he's a guy that you can slide into your RB2 spot, and then if he can stay healthy and be effective in that Ravens offense, he can evolve into that, give you that high ceiling throughout the year. I got my eyes on both these running backs then for Washington with Eric Bieniemy, even though all these, the whole Eric Bieniemy, you have to look into it, report that came out today with Ron Rivera's comments on his coaching. But with that being said, you got the elements of that KC offense coming to Washington. Brian Robinson Jr. last year, despite him missing the beginning part of the year, he has the 23rd highest points per game since 2020 for all running backs. And then Antonio Gibson has the 22nd most points per game. And maybe it's just me. I was a big Gibson fan entering the league, and I just can't give up on him. And I think with Bieniemy bringing in those passing elements where they utilize like Jerick McKinnon last year as a receiving running back, I can see that translating good for Antonio Gibson, where he can give you a higher ceiling this year and eventually be that like a low to high end RB2 throughout the year. Then we got Rachaad White. The reason why I got him on this list as a potential high ceiling guy is because I think that Bucs offensive line is going to be much improved, and if Rachaad White does end up winning this RB1 spot in Tampa Bay, it doesn't sound great for the quarterback situation here in Tampa. So I could see this Bucs offense really leaning into the rushing attack to take the weight of pressure off whoever's their quarterback's going to be, whether it's going to be Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield. Devin Achane, the rookie running back for Miami, I'm just hearing all these positive reports out of camp for him. I'm not sure if he's going to start the year as a starting running back for Miami, but I think with his speed being in Mike McDaniel's offense down there in Miami, and then they got the guys outside, obviously Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I think those guys will help open up rushing lanes for the rushing attack like they did last year. And Ashane's got that speed where he can take advantage of it and give it an explosive element to the Dolphins' rushing attack. And I think there's a chance this guy can be a good flex to RB2 play that can give you a good high ceiling towards the end of the year. And Cam Akers, man, talk about a guy that has had a roller coaster of a season, but he finished the season really strong last year for the Los Angeles Rams. And I believe that Sean McVay is not going to try to put too much pressure on Matthew Stafford to be who Matthew Stafford was 2 years ago when they made that trade for him and they won the Super Bowl. And I believe that he's going to try to get back into that rushing attack of the past when it was Jared Goff and sorry, I forget his name, Todd Gurley. I can't believe I almost draw a blank on his name. And I think they're going to give an opportunity to Akers. So I think the volume's going to be there for Akers. And if Akers can actually deliver on his talent that, some of us did see entering the league there's a chance where he was if he's getting these 100-yard games like he was at the end of the last year, he had 4 games in a row over 100 yards, if I'm remembering that right. So that's why I'm like, with his ADP, you're probably going to be able to get him on your bench. And then if he delivers, all of a sudden you slide him into your RB2 spot and potentially gives you those ceiling type of performances throughout the year. Now, more running back situations to monitor. We got Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, and Kareem Hunt. Let's start with Dalvin Cook. It does not sound as of right now he's going to be signing with the New York Jets, so it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. There's been connections with the Patriots. There's been connections with the Cowboys, possibly. I still think if something has a setback with Javonte Williams, Denver could be a sneaky spot for him. But that's his situation is something to monitor because he does have the 6th highest points per game average, and obviously if he does indeed sign with the Jets and Breece Hall's out for the first 4 to 5 weeks, Cook can give you great value to start the season. And then with Ezekiel Elliott, he's got the 19th highest average. I don't think Zeke's going to walk in and be a starter anywhere, but if he does sign with the Patriots, he's going to be like that goal line short yardage back for them, and it will be really dependent with Zeke the contract he gets for whoever he signs with. He kind of signs for like a mid-level contract. You don't really think he's going to go in there and take away touches from whoever the starter is with the team he signs with. But if he does sign like a decent contract, maybe that's a sign they're going to utilize him throughout the season. So it's more of something to pay attention with him. And then there has been chatter that the Cowboys could end up re-signing him to be the backup to Tony Pollard, which would make him basically a premium handcuff because he would be going back to an offense that he's very familiar with. And then the last one is Kareem Hunt. I kind of hinted to it earlier. The reports were coming out today. The Saints were expecting to sign him. And then it came out just a couple hours ago that he's now actually going to go visit the Colts. The Diana Rossini from ESPN reported that the Colts offered him more money. So he's going to go there. But there's also a report that several teams are interested in him. So obviously if he goes to the Colts, right, and say he does sign with Indianapolis and this Taylor situation does boil over, the Colts decide to trade him, and also in Kareem Hunt's the RB1 with Anthony Richardson and that Shane Steichen passing attack, you're talking about a guy for me that would go into that RB2 category that can give you a high floor and then potentially a ceiling if this offense can click underneath Shane Steichen in year 1. Moving into this next tier, these are running backs and running back by committees that I would like on my bench. I don't necessarily want to draft them to be a flex. I don't want to necessarily draft them to be my RB2 to start the year. But let's start with the Eagles guys, DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell. Those are the 2 running backs out of Philadelphia I got my eyes on, mainly because I can't quit DeAndre Swift. He does have the 14th highest point per game average for running back since 2020. And I was listening to the Move the Sticks podcast this morning, and Daniel Jeremiah was at the Eagles training camp, and he said that if you're a fantasy guy, keep an eye on Swift because I think he's going to catch a lot of balls for Philadelphia this year. So if you're in PPR leagues, that sounds golden to me. I think my thing with Kenneth Gainwell is they've always kind of loved him in there in Philadelphia. He just hasn't got like a lion's share of the touches. But when I saw their head coach wear a Kenneth Gainwell t-shirt at a press conference the other week, it kind of shows the coach's belief that he's going to wear a player shirt to the conference. So I got my eyes on it. Again, this is just a bench move, guys. I think that could end up paying off for you. And then as far as the Chicago Bears situation, the 2 running backs I would be willing to draft, it would be Khalil Herbert. We've seen him produce before. And then Rashawn Johnson, the rookie running back out of Texas. Now, they have Deontay Foreman there, but to me, Foreman's like a guy that maybe he gives you 2 or 3 games this year, but he doesn't really offer you a high ceiling, but he can give you like 2 or 3 very good performances if he gets the lion's share of the touches. I would go for more of the higher ceiling plays with Khalil Herbert and the rookie Rashawn Johnson. It sounds like Rashawn Johnson's probably their best pass blocker as a running back. And I did see that the report was coming out of Chicago that between these 3 running backs, who might see the field the most is probably going to be the running back that's the best pass protector. And that means Rashawn Johnson can end up being a 3-down back for the Bears this year. And then I talked up Devin Achane, but obviously with that Dolphins rushing attack, you just got to keep an eye on them. Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert, we've seen them before. They can give out great fantasy outcomes for you, but you just can't count on them staying healthy throughout the year. But they're definitely worth a bench ad, because if they get that, like they've shown in the past, like that 3 to 6 week range where they're getting all the touches in that rushing attack, where they can pay off for you. And then moving into the last tier, I'm not going to really run over all these guys, but these are my top handcuff running backs that I think that if the starter were to go down, these are guys that could easily slide in as RB2s, and some of these guys give you a higher ceiling. I mean, I like all these guys on the list, but just to run over some names I've really got my eyes on. Tank Bigsby for the Jaguars. I definitely do still got my eyes on Samaje Perine, like I talked about in the my running back draft late video. Tyler Algier, I definitely got my eyes on him. Gus Edwards, if J.K. Dobbins can't start the year. I think Tajay Spears, all the reports are coming out positive about him. And with Derrick Henry getting up there in age, I do think he's going to provide value. Jerick McKinnon, and then Zamir White, the backup running back for the Raiders, especially if Josh Jacobs does indeed end up holding out into the season. But yeah, that one, today's video is a little bit more lengthier. I did have more players to obviously speak about. Those are my tiers of running backs I got my eyes on heading into my drafts coming up over this next month. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, give me a follow depending on what platform you are watching this video on. Next video, guys, you're going to get my wide receiver tiers. That's probably going to come out on Sunday. Got some plans this weekend, so I'm probably not going to be able to get that video in until Sunday. That's when you'll see me next, more than likely. If I can get it out there sooner, I definitely will. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out. Enjoy your day or week whenever you're watching this night. Talk to you later.